Welcome back to SheTech. Today I'm joined by Danielle, a senior front-end developer at Uber. Her journey is inspiring. She started out in psychology, but realized her passion was in software engineering. With the courage to change paths, plus the support of great mentors, she built a successful career in tech. In this episode, you'll learn what a front-end engineer actually does, how to get there, and why it's worth taking risks to follow what makes you happy.
So, hi Danielle, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to answer some questions. I do know there are so many people that are curious to know more about your job. So, yeah, can you make us more introduction on yourself and what you do at Uber?
Sure. So I'm Danielle. I'm a senior software engineer at Uber. I've been here for about 6 years and I'm on the ad tech team. So what software engineering does at a high level, or specifically me, so I do front end, which is basically the web or website side of things. So our team builds a lot of tools for data scientists and marketers, other people that also work at Uber, and so I help build the websites and tools that they're using. So things such as experimentation, or data analysis, or things like that.
Mm-hmm. And what did it get you very interested in this engineering field, having in mind that at the beginning usually was a very man focus area? How did you manage to get inside?
Ooh, good question. I think from when I was little, I always kind of liked puzzles and logic games and logic puzzles and things like that. And I think when I was younger, I kind of thought I was more math and sciencey because up until high school, so before college, I really didn't know about programming at all. My high school didn't have programming classes. I didn't really know what it was. But then in college, so I was originally a psychology major, and for that we had to take a Python course for research and data analysis. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And pursued it a bit more. And I really like the problem solving, technical, but slightly creative aspect of programming.
Oh, so you started with a totally different degree. And how did you manage to have that choice of oh, maybe this is not the right, I should try software engineering?
It was very unexpected. I think all along looking back, I think software engineering very much matched my interest, but I just didn't have any exposure to it previously. So what I liked about psychology and neuroscience is it's kind of sciencey, it's researchy, you can investigate things. And then after taking those intro programming courses, I was like, oh, actually this fits my interests a bit more. There's rules that you have to follow, but also you get the freedom to kind of build things yourself. And especially for the front end side of things, for the websites, I like that I can see what I can build. So I think actually it was a surprise, but I think it fits my interest quite well. Yeah.
And did you afterwards get a degree in that one, or did you do some courses, or how did you get actually more in depth into software?
So then I ended up switching my major to computer science, and then first did an internship in computer science, and then after the first year graduating, then I kind of shifted, tried a bit of back end and front end, and decided I like the front end side a bit better.
And if you're looking all overall your career path and journey, what do you think are some main steps that help you get here?
Yeah, good question. I think kind of a theme throughout especially the earlier parts of my career in university was really good mentors. So in college, I just remember a few TAs that were really helpful for answering my questions, and I think that just helped keep me excited about it and keep me feel comfortable oh, even though this is new and it's hard, they really kept me interested and motivated. And then when my first job out of college, my manager was also doing front end, and he was a really great manager and mentor, so helped me learn a lot there, and I think also helped shift the focus more towards front end. And I think now thinking about Uber, I've been here it's crazy that I've been here for already 6 years, but I think also it's been really nice here is also really good mentorship and teammates. So my manager here also she was a front-end engineer here. She was a staff engineer before she transitioned to manager. She was quite senior. So I feel I've just learned a lot technically from my teammates, working with smart people, and I think the thing that keeps me excited here is always having new types of challenges and learning new things has in the most recent time kept me excited.
And I can imagine that. And then going more in depth in your role at Uber, how is your typical day or week look like?
I guess for typical, I'll just go for a current project that I'm working on. So I think normally, normally I'd say me and most often just have one big project they're working on. So as an example, the big project that we're about to launch is something about observability, so helping users see, get a better sense of where the data is going and how Uber is processing data. So I'd say most of the week is focused on things related to that project. So a lot of it's coding, but a lot of it can also be like system design or communication. So like working with the backend engineers to help design the APIs, or working with the product manager to help design the UI. Or since now we're about to launch, it's been working more with users and testing it and getting their feedback. So I'd say normally one big project, some things on the sides, like I do interviews for Uber, I do things related to like diversity at Uber, so sometimes there's events related to that. So it's a good balance of challenges.
Multiple stuff. And how would you say is like the communication between the backend team and the front-end team?
Oh, good question. I think that's something also that Uber does quite well, like that I really respect like Uber and my teammates for. Because I think even though we're building different parts of the app, they're very connected, and it's very important to align on things like design, because we kind of have to use the APIs that they make, and then we have to send data back. But I think what's also nice is we're always in contact with each other, so like reviewing their design documents, the front-end reviews, and vice versa. For product testing, they're also involved in UI testing. So I feel like by both, each area has their expertise, but by both being always in touch, it makes the process smoother, it makes the product better.
And do you feel you have an impact on the company or user with your work?
Ooh, I hope so. Like I think for me, something that I like is, I think the downside is because we're internal tool, we're not working on the big Uber apps that everyone knows, but something, so even though the number of users is smaller, something that I like is like I can talk to our users a lot more personally. So I can go up to the desk of someone and say, hey, how's your team using this? Is it improving your metrics? So for me, that's something that I like a lot, like the very close like user communication. So it is really exciting, after we launch a product and someone to say, this saves me so much time, or this makes our experiments perform better. So I'd like to hope that I have a part in that.
And then going maybe more in depth in that, what do you enjoy the most about it?
Ooh, I think probably like that collaboration, and also I feel like that type of challenge I think is really interesting to solve from a coding perspective. Because a lot of times, as an example, like a marketer might be doing something, we don't have a tool for it, or there's no tech for it, so they've made, a creative solution themselves, like on Google Sheets or something. So it's very manual, it's not optimal, and we just kind of, the project starts often being like, we want to make this better, we want to build some sort of experimentation tool. So like it's quite a vague, non-technical problem initially. We see what users are currently doing, we see what's hard about it, we see what they want to do. So like to me, that's really fun to get to mix the talking to people and solving their problems and building a product, but then also obviously the coding side of everything has to be coded and built. I think like that balance is I think my favorite part.
The, let's call it bad side, what are some downsides or challenging?
Probably all of Uber's, like things move so fast, and so like sometimes, like something that was important last year is different, or something new has come up. So like I remember, like a few years ago when COVID was happening, then Uber switched a lot to Uber Eats. So that affected our roadmap at all. It's like, okay, let's make, targeting better for Uber Eats. And now it's AI. So I think overall it's a very exciting thing of like, suddenly there's this huge new like category of opportunities, but there's just like a lot of new things happening. So I think sometimes it can be hard to know like, okay, how do we know the new thing is worth investing? With AI, like how do we know how much we should build? What is the most optimal thing to build when it's so new? But I also think that's the exciting part, is like, oh, you get to play around with these new things and be involved in those decisions of like, okay, how do we start using this new thing?
And it's challenging but exciting at the same time. It's a combo. It's always
like,
a combo.
It's good chaos. It's exciting chaos.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. Sometimes chaos is needed for innovation.
Exactly. Like I think it really pushes you, and like I'd much rather have that than the other side of like, oh, everything's slow or things are boring. So like very
especially in tech. And then what do you think is like the most unique side of the job?
Ooh. For front-end engineer, or like specifically
Front-end?
Uber? I think also maybe like the people and engineering collaboration. But I think also like that's something that I think the back-end people at Uber do quite well, is like I think they are very involved, very committed to and perceptive of like the user issues. But I think in some other place in tech, you might hear, like, oh, engineering is very siloed, and like, they want to build just like the most technically complex thing ever, which is cool and exciting. But I think Uber does a good job of making sure like, okay, we want to build things that are technically sound and challenging, but also that are going to make people's lives better in some way. So I like that a lot about Uber. And then I think front end in particular, you do get the mix of like you're coding, you're working back end, but also you're much closer to the users of, okay, how do I know this is something that the users are going to like? How do I measure that? How do I work with them? So I do like the balance, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there is something like misunderstood about your job?
Ooh, good question. I think for front end, I think a lot of people think it's just design and just like, oh, this is the button, this is what color it is. But I think, that's obviously some of it. But I think, especially at Uber, like we have a shared design system where a lot of those design choices are already beautifully designed for me. So actually, I think a lot of the day-to-day is not about that, but more so about like the data management and load balancing. So the Uber Eats website has to handle millions of users. For our team, we have to handle like large amounts of data and we have to gather data from different ways. So even though it's a front end, the front end still has to think about how we fetch data, how we store it and send it and present it to users.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like there is definitely like a visual aspect, but I think there's also a lot of like design and data design and algorithmic design as well in it.
And do you think it's important to be a creative person for this one?
I think so, yeah. Like I think that's part of the reason why I like it is like there are like kind of like the rules and laws of coding and like there's things that have to be done and each language has rules and it still has to work. But I think especially if you're new to coding, like I think I didn't realize how much creativity is involved in how you design it and what it looks like and the decisions you make. So I think it's a very good balance of like creative and technical.
And then what do you think are the most important skills?
Oh, good question. I think technical skills, like I think just having like really good like coding fundamentals, so like starting out, I think understanding data structures and algorithms is a good way to kind of just understand like, the foundations of coding and like how do you build things with code and solve problems with code. But I think especially as I've gotten older, like I think communication becomes more and more important, or it's important at all levels, but especially like as you get more senior. Like the most senior engineers at Uber actually are writing not so much code and doing a lot more like documents and strategy and vision and like business impact. So communication really is so important at all levels, but especially as you get older.
And do you think you'll ever want to switch to a manager position?
Good question. I think as of now, no, because they have so many meetings. Bless them. I think originally I did, but the thing that I think the part of managing that appeals to me is kind of the mentorship aspect of like, how do you help people grow and like grow their careers and give them good projects. So I think as of now, I feel like I still want to grow myself a bit more technically and still have that mentorship side, but more so probably in the technical. So like I was a UCP mentor and like helping people start out. So tentatively, I like being a software engineer like an IC, but we'll see.
And how important do you think you talk about communication, but maybe also other soft skills are compared with technical ones?
Yeah, another really important skill is kind of like in problem understanding, like having the flexibility to understand different perspectives and like build those into the solution. So, like when we build, say, like a new tool for running experiments, there's obviously the technical side of how do we want to build it, how do we want to design the database, but also it needs to be something that will help users. The UI needs to make sense. It needs to be flexible for them when there's new types of experiments. So I think the ability to understand both the technical side, but also understand the user side of like how to make something flexible so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think kind of that flexibility in thinking is also really important, and understanding that like there's not just one solution, there's not just one perspective.
If let's say I'm someone very early in my career, I don't know where to go next, what do you think would be some steps that I could take in order to see maybe front end is good for me or not?
I don't know about front end. I guess so to start with programming, like I feel like if you like anyone who likes kind of like puzzles and like like logic puzzles or chess or puzzly board games, I think those are like I like all those things and I feel like those kind of tie into why I like programming. So I think starting with there's so many great free online coding resources like Code Academy and Coding Boot Camp maybe.
Yeah.
Or Free Code Camp, like there's so many things like that. So just try out some things to kind of see. I think for me, starting was so daunting because at first I was like, what is code? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So just starting with something small to kind of see like, okay, like this is what the syntax looks like these are variables, just starting with something. And I think similarly for front end, I think for me it was kind of good to start with like I started with Python, and then Java, and then not front end until later, but so kind of having like the programming foundation, and then for front end also just kind of start building things. Like can you build just like an HTML website of like a bio of yourself or something, just to like start building things yourself, I think is good to see. Like, what's fun? What do I do if I get stuck? And just to like start building those like curious problem solving skills.
And I have one last question, which is the one that I love to ask absolutely everyone, is if you could go back to your younger self, what would be one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Ooh, I think probably be more confident. I think starting out I was very afraid, and yeah, like I switched to computer science late, so I was like, oh my god, I'm behind, like everyone knows so much more than me. But I think in looking back, that was kind of true. You know, like some people did just have more years of experience, and that's okay, but kind of just embracing like, okay, I'm new, but like it's okay, like I'm gonna keep learning, you know, like I'll catch up, you know, like it'll take time because I'm brand new, but I'll get there. And I think, I don't know if I could tell younger me, like, oh, you know, someday you'll have a career in software engineering. Like, I think that would be nice for little me to hear, because I think when I first started, like, it just seemed so foreign, like, oh my god. Especially like, oh, if younger me knew that I'd be living in Amsterdam or from the States, I feel like that would have been just such like a wild card thing, and like,
yeah, a relief.
Yeah, like, so I think it would have been cool to see, like, oh yeah, like it does eventually work out. And yeah.
I do understand that. I think like everyone is like at one point thinking that is behind in sub chapter, maybe career, maybe not. But I think it's good to remember that you did already a lot and you're not behind, you're just like, trying new things for you.
It's a new learning path, and yeah, I'm very happy with.
Great. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. And who knows, maybe I'll see you in another episode.